In this lesson, we are going to discuss how to generate and edit building elevations using ArchiCAD. And for the purposes of this course, I'm only going to show you how to edit just one elevation for the building for this project that we have created. And then using the skills that we are going to learn in this lesson, you are going to edit the other 3 elevations to suit your presentation requirements. So if you look at your building, you have these indications here, like you have an east elevation with a line and an arrow pointing to the building. This other side, you have another elevation, an arrow pointing to the building, and you have a west elevation and a south elevation. So these ones are usually when you create a new project, you'll have these elevation viewpoints already pre-built in the project, because when you are creating a new project, you are choosing something we call a template for use with your project. But in the case where you find that you do not have these elevation viewpoints already created for you, you can create that by going here and viewpoint. And then you have the very first one. This side, the first one here is a section tool, and the second one is an elevation tool. So when you click on the elevation tool, you have that getting active, and the same way we were editing the settings dialog for all other items or all other ArchiCAD design and documenting tools, you can access the setting dialog for the elevation tool, and it's going to open the elevation default settings. And with that, you can edit or rather customize the general settings here: model appearances, the marker text style, you have mark simple and text, you have story levels, you have story levels text, you have story levels symbols, and you have grid tools. So in this case, we just click on OK. With this elevation tool selected, what I want to show you is that if you don't have the west elevations and or the default elevations viewpoints that I have, you can create one. So let's say you want to create an elevation viewpoint from here. All you do is make sure your elevation tool is selected, and then click here, move your elevation line up to here. So this is so from this point to this point, this is going to be the viewpoint range. So we are going to view as details from this point to this point. And how do you want to view them? So if you click on that, you'll have the eye. Let me show you that well. You'll have this eye icon here, as you can see it. And there's an arrow that moves both sides. So if you place the eye icon on this side, you have the arrow pointing to this side, meaning that we are viewing from where you have this black line. We are viewing all the building elements towards that side. So if you move it to the other side, you see the arrow changes and points downwards. In this case, we want the arrow to point towards the building. So I click, then you have an E01 elevation that has been created and placed there. So that's how to create custom elevation viewpoints. And if you wanted to edit this, you just click to select it, right click, and then choose open with current view settings. And that would open this elevation for you to start editing. So let's just close that. Let's say we have many elevations. So we have the east elevation. We have that is the east elevation. We have the north elevation. We have south elevation. So double click to open south elevation. We have west elevation. Should be showing here. Yeah, this is the west elevation. So close, go back to the 2D floor plan view. And let's say I want to edit the north elevation. So what I'll do is zoom select, or rather holding down the shift key on your keyboard, you click on that to select that elevation. Then right click. You'll have options for elevation selection settings. You can click on that and it's going to open now elevation selection settings. But in our case, I want to open the elevation itself. So I'll right click and open, choose the third option here, open with current view settings. So if I click open with current view settings, it's going to open this elevation. So let me zoom to the screen. So on this side, you can see the story levels as we had customized them. And you are also seeing some grid lines. So our grid lines that were part of the floor plan are also reflecting in the elevations. And we have some dimensions here. But most importantly, this is now the elevation as default, as ArchiCAD creates it, as it is generated by default when you are using it, as it is generated by default in ArchiCAD when you create a new elevation viewpoint. There is some element that is missing. If you look at the bottom here, rather let me take you to the 3D view so you are able to see how the 3D view looks. So the 3D view, you have the building itself sitting on a mass of some soil. So we have some topography. So we have this mesh that is missing. So if I go back to the node elevation and I have Control L on my keyboard, I'm using Windows. I am not using Mac. So on Windows, Control L. If you're using Mac, the options may be different. So let's look for a layer that has been hidden. So scrolling like that, and we are looking for the terrain one. So you have this site and landscape terrain. So you see the eye icon here is not active. So click on it to activate it. So we have now the layer visible. If you click OK, we just have this as OK. And wait for our elevation to load. You see we have this now is in place, and that's okay. I wanted that to be there. So as you continue editing your project, make sure to always save. We save that. Then I want to do some editings. I don't want to see these grid elements on my elevation. So right click and select elevation settings. So let's have like that. Right click. You have this. Click on elevation settings. Elevation selection settings is going to open, and we are interested in the grid tool. So here you as displayed on the screen, you see we have chosen to show the grid elements in our elevation. So if I untick this and click on OK to save, then wait for the project to load, you notice our elevations, or rather our grid lines are gone. And it looks way more neater with that look. The other thing I'm going to do is change the appearance of this terrain component here. And I'll use documenting tools. I'll use a fill. So click on that fill. And up here, we have the fill category. Let me show you. This is where we have the fill category. So I want you to click on this arrow and choose, change this from a cut fill to a drafting fill. When you're done, we go back to this point, and we are going to draw on top of this mesh like that, and select where we have this fill type. I want to use earth. Click. Then you see now at the bottom of that we have that pattern that shows there. It looks nice. Can select everything. Try to move it upwards till it touches that point, and do the same with the exact mesh or the real mesh. Move it upwards also. So we have that in place. The next thing we are going to do is to change the appearance of everything. So again, right click, selection settings, rather elevation settings. And in this case, we start up there. We have the general settings where we can change the reference ID. We can also change the elevation name and customize the source markers and references to that. I don't want to change this because already ArchiCAD has the template we are using has these settings in order. Before we come back to model appearance and model appearance, I want to talk about this marker. The marker is the one we had seen on the ground on the floor plan. If you remember, this how this looked like. So maybe in case we want to change the color, size, and anything, we can make a few changes here. If you click on uniform, you're going to see this also change. We have marker text style. In this case, I like to use DM Sans. Like to have this text as number 1 and the font size as 3. We have marker simple and text. In this case, you can change the styles. You have all these options that you are given here. So depending on which one you think would be the best look for you, just change that for you the presentation purposes. And story levels. I want to have show story levels. Here is ticked as display only. I want to change that to display and output, because when we are moving these drawings to the layouts for publishing, I want to have these lines showing, but I'll change the line to triple dashed. We'll have the story pen line as given 85 here, and then this, make sure this is ticked, this is ticked, and this is also ticked. And here you have uniform marker. Change that to pen number 1. Let's go to story levels, text style. And the first thing to change is font type. And the font text pen, let's have it as 6. And the font size as 2 millimeters. Story levels, level simple and text, we'll have this just as they've shown it, and then click on OK. Notice there has not been so much changes, but these are the customizations that we are trying to put in place. As you can see, initially, this was not like that. It has changed. You have this line as double dotted like that, and that looks well. So we can also choose to go back again in the elevation settings, and this time we are going to focus on model appearance. So model appearance here, open. We have customizations for how these cut elements are going to appear. We have customizations for how uncut elements are going to appear. We scroll down, we have the sun characteristics and shadows. So let's change something under uncut elements. We have a uniform uncut pens. I want to have that as uniform. So if you click on this box to tick, or rather to select or to activate uniform uncut pens, you're going to have uncut pen line. Change that to pen number 1. Then we'll have transparency, surface cover fill, foreground. This one we can experiment and see how that looks, but first I want to turn off transparency. Then I'll fade the distance elements, and then let's come back to where we have the sun. I want to show shadows like that. Then we can go down here, click on OK. We'll have that reflecting as that. I think the fade elements is not desirable in this case because we are seeing this building looking like it's too far from us. So I can get back again, and where we have fade distance elements, just untick that. You'll have elevation now coming back and looking so nice, as you can see. Yeah, this is what we wanted to achieve. If you look at the windows, and they look realistic. We have some shadows in place, because when you have shadows, it starts to look nice. What else can we change? Let's try to see if we have surface cover fill. Let's see if that is going to affect anything. Doesn't look nice. So go back and deactivate that. We add this. Just say okay. So here I want to introduce some background, and I'm going to use the fill. So we go back to documenting tools, and let's select the fill. Make sure fill category here is a drafting mode. And then you can draw from this edge like that up to the top. Let's say somewhere there. Let's make sure this is at the edge. Click change to offset edge. Move it back. But if you look at our building, the elevation is hidden by the fill. But because we have the fill selected, we can right click and under display options, choose send to back. So under display options, choose send to back. So click on that, and our elevation is being seen. It's now visible again. Let me try to select these lines. Think this. Yeah, I think it's okay. It's okay as that. But the intention is to have this fill as so the intention is to have this fill as a gradient fill. So you select it, and a fill type here. You can see the types, which can also be accessed when you open the settings dialog for the fill, and you have this fill pattern. In this case, I want to have a linear gradient, and then click on OK. But I want it to look the other way. So the darker part to be on top and the lighter part to be at the bottom. So click to select. Zoom, you have this, and click on this side. Then select this option of move fill undo. So as that, select this option of move fill undo. And then let's move it to that point. And you notice we have flipped that, but still it doesn't look the way, or rather doesn't look so presentable. We can try to adjust by moving this head up there, trying to elongate this line. So in that case, we are just changing the distribution of the colors that form this is color gradient. So in that case, that is our elevation. We can try to add a few things to put this into context. One of these things would be a dimension. So I click on dimension and then choose this elevation method. I can add a few dimensions there. And then if you are looking at your elevation and you want to know the size of the building, or rather you want this to be interactive, in this case we can add some other elements. Let's say we have some trees at the background, or we have a human being interacting with the elevation. In this case, we'll be able now to get the real scale of all of the items. So let's go to design and architectural tools, activate object tool, and in this case, go to the settings dialog for the object. To search for, try to search, let's say standing. So like we have this standing man. We have options, we have a woman, we have a woman contour. Select this woman contour. Under custom settings here, also we have a preview, but we also have custom settings here. So view type is set as linear top view. I want to change that to front view. Front view, you're going to see this person from the elevation side as that. Click OK. And then let's place this person here. And select Control plus D. Then we are going to move this up. So select that. Let's delete. So in that case, you have someone standing there. So in that case, we can be able now to gauge the scale of our model. So I'll also place another one here. Try to make some adjustments. Should be standing on top of the slab. But because I want that person to be shown in the background, I'll choose to display this as send backwards, or let's say send to back. Sorry. Display, bring forward, and then let's say display send backward. After sending backward, let's have the as the back. Yeah, like that. In that case, now we can tell the scale of our elevation. Let's just add one item in the under objects. So let's search for some tree. I'll choose that, and pine, looking for one that we can change the appearance to look like, let's say if we add that, yes. Okay, let's have the deciduous tree 25. That in preview, you're going to see this from the top. But we go to settings, we can change a few things here under 2D representation. Under 2D representation, you have the view type here set as top view. So let's zoom to that point. So you have this set as top view, but I want us to change this to side view, symbolic side view, and okay. Then we'll go ahead and place that somewhere there like that. Maybe go back and change this type of a tree. Let's say I want this to look like that one. Now this would look better. Click OK. Yeah. Then you can drag it up to that point, and then display send backward. Rather, you can choose to display send to back. So send that to back. The same thing with that tree. Try to move it down a little bit. Let's say at that point, and then change display to send to back. Then select your fill, right click, display, send to back. So now your trees appear now at the front. So that is our elevation. But if you look at the theme of that elevation, you have some tree that is evergreen, and we have another one here that does not have leaves. Doesn't look realistic because they would be, okay, maybe realistic, but I would consider making some changes so that in case of, instead of that, I can have like this tree here, and change this to symbolic side view. Then we'll have the tree as, let's say this one. Which one? Type 5. Click OK. Changes like that. So just a few customizations here and there, maybe depending on what you want to achieve. Because in this case, I'm just showing you how you can play around with the introducing objects to just bring your elevation to scale. So with that, I hope you are now able to develop elevations to generate and edit elevations using ArchiCAD. So if you go back to the 2D view of our building, the one that we have customized is the north elevation. So we have the west elevation. You can do the same to the west elevation. You can also do the same to the south elevation, and you can also make the same editings to the east elevation. So that in this case, you'll be having your elevations well edited and ready for presentation. So go ahead, experiment as much as you can, make as much changes as possible to come up with the various or rather multiple iterations of how you want your elevations to look like. Then when you are satisfied with this, how you can move to the next lesson, and let's see how to generate and edit building sections.